Have you ever really thought about how the phone in your hand, with parts from like a dozen different countries, actually gets to you? Or how all these nations manage to agree on massive rules for things like climate change or global health? Well, the answer is this really powerful idea that honestly shapes our entire world: multilateralism. You could call it the art of global cooperation, and we're about to break down exactly how it works. So let's just start with the biggest question right off the bat. With nearly 200 countries on this planet, all of them with their own leaders, their own economies, their own goals, how in the world do they agree on, well, anything? I mean, it seems totally impossible, right? But the answer lies in a really specific framework for working together. And yeah, that framework is multilateralism. And you got to understand, this is so much more than just a bunch of world leaders getting together for a meeting or, signing some one-off treaty. It's a whole organizational form, a really unique way that countries decide to act on the world stage.
At its very heart, multilateralism is all about creating a stable, predictable system. And look, this was a totally revolutionary idea. Instead of a world that's just run by backroom deals and alliances that shift based on who's got the most power, this system commits countries to guiding their relationships based on shared principles that apply to everyone. It's about building something that lasts, not just grabbing a quick win.
So what are these principles then? What are the actual rules of this global game? Well, there are three really big ones that make multilateralism what it is. So let's peel back the layers and take a look at each one. Okay, the first principle is non-discrimination, and this is really the bedrock of fairness. It just means that if you're part of a multilateral deal, you have to treat every single other member the exact same way. You can't give your close allies a special pass or bend the rules just because it's convenient for you. Everybody gets treated equally. Period. Next up, we've got indivisibility. This one means the commitment applies to the entire group. You just can't pick and choose. Think about a security alliance, for example. Peace is treated as one single thing. You can't divide it up. An attack on one country is a problem for everyone. And finally, there's diffuse reciprocity. Now, this one is super interesting because it gets right to the trust at the very heart of the system. This isn't about a simple, hey, I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of exchange. It's all about cooperating over the long haul with this shared belief that everyone's going to benefit down the line. It's truly about playing the long game. Sometimes people describe this idea with this really powerful phrase, the shadow of the future. What that means is that your actions today are shaped by the idea that you're going to have to deal with these same people again and again and again. So you cooperate now to build a reputation as a reliable partner, creating the trust you need for them to cooperate with you tomorrow. It's an incredibly forward-looking way to think. Okay, I know these principles can feel a little abstract, so let's make it super concrete with an example that affects pretty much everything you buy: global trade. A perfect real-world example is the World Trade Organization, or the WTO. Its absolute core principle is non-discrimination, and it enforces this through something called most favored nation status. The rule is actually pretty simple. If a member country gives a trade advantage, like a lower tariff, to one nation, it has to do the exact same thing for all the other members. This is what stops countries from making special side deals and helps create a more level playing field for everybody. But for all its successes, multilateralism is definitely not without its critics and its challenges. Today, this entire system of global cooperation is facing a ton of pressure. The world is changing, and this old idea is really being put to the test. One of the biggest tensions right now is this kind of tug of war between global multilateralism and something called regionalism. So instead of one giant global agreement, what we're seeing is more and more smaller deals between neighboring countries that are based on their own specific regional interests. And the big question everyone's asking is whether these regional blocs are going to end up helping or hurting the global system. Another challenge is that, let's be honest, this system has never been applied equally everywhere. It's deeply, deeply embedded in places like North America and Western Europe. And a big reason for that is because the United States actively built these kinds of institutions there after World War II. But it's historically been way less common in other parts of the world, like the Asia-Pacific region. So given all these challenges, you might be thinking, why are we even talking about this? Why does multilateralism still matter so much? Well, the answer really lies in the kinds of problems we're all facing as a planet. The reality is, our biggest challenges, I'm talking climate change, financial crises, pandemics, they don't respect borders. They just don't. They're global by their very nature. And multilateralism, for all its flaws and all its problems, is still the main framework we have for countries to even try to tackle these massive shared problems together. And this all brings us to one final thought. As our world gets more and more interconnected and our problems get more and more complex, we're really left with a fundamental question. In the 21st century, is this kind of cooperation just a choice, or is it an absolute necessity for our shared future?